My name's Louise, and I'm a Regional Student Recruitment and Access Officer at the University of Reading. And the region that I specifically look after is London. So I actually am based full-time in London. I live in South East London, and I spend a lot of my time going around to schools and colleges and advising young people on their next steps and all the kind of things that entails, such as personal statements, UCAS, student finance, etc. So in this webinar this evening, I'm going to cover some basic things to do with the student finance and UCAS process. So hopefully just get you up to speed so that you know the basics of what to expect and the kind of dates and timelines to bear in mind as well. As I'm talking, if you've got any questions at all, feel free to pop them into the messages box, and I will leave some time at the end for questions so I can go through them. So yeah, if you have anything at all you'd like to comment or question, do pop it into the messaging box. So first of all, I'm going to talk about making the right choice when it comes to a university and a course. So how you can support your child to make the right choice for them, and the kind of conversations you might want to be having at home if they're, stuck between two choices or they're a bit of a loss. The next thing we'll talk about is the UCAS process, so the dates that you need to bear in mind and how exactly it works. We'll also talk about the student finance package. So how will your child fund their university experience? How does that work? What kind of things do they need to cover? The dates they need to bear in mind. Extra funding opportunities. Aside from government loans, there might be some free money that your child's eligible for and you might want to research. How to apply for student finance, a little bit about budgeting, and as I say, I will leave time for questions at the end, so do feel free to pop anything in the messaging box. So let's start by thinking about how you can support your child make the best decision in terms of what university and what course they would like to do. So the really key thing to remember is that every course is different. So even universities that do the same type of course, the same subject area, let's say history, for example, all universities will specialize in different areas. So one university might do really well at ancient history, one university might do really well at contemporary history. These are really different things, of course. So you need to make sure that you're supporting your child to make the right decision for them, and making sure that they are going to end up in a position that they're really happy with and it's exactly what they want to learn about and that they're not going to be regretting that choice. So obviously a key thing to look out for is entry requirements. The best place to find these is on UCAS or on university websites directly. So what grades does the student need to get into that course? Sometimes universities will express these in A levels, sometimes UCAS tariff points, which you can find a calculator for on the UCAS website. Often universities will accept other qualifications that aren't A levels, such as BTECs, and they usually just ask for the equivalent grades in that alternative qualification. But it's always important to check if there's any GCSE requirements, because you don't want to waste one of their choices. And if you are confused, don't hesitate to ring up or email a university admission services, because people are employed full-time to answer your questions. So we are here to answer if you've got any kind of specific questions about qualifications. Do get in touch with them. I mentioned course content. Make sure that the course that they're applying to do is exactly what they want to study. So, does it have the kind of elements of the subject area that they're most interested in? Because all universities do specialize in different areas. If they're studying something like law or medicine or psychology, you might want to look into whether or not the course is accredited by an awarding body. That means that it's like a recognized qualification, so they don't have to do more tests and things when they graduate. They can just go straight into that field if it's more vocational. Really important things to research with them as well, things like support. So if your child has a disability or mental health condition, for example, what kind of stuff does the university offer to support them? And if that doesn't apply to them, everybody needs support no matter what situation they're in. So, what does the university offer? Do they have a career service, a counselling service? Do they have personal tutors on the academic course? You want to make sure that they're looked after properly. And universities do offer these things, absolutely, but they all kind of range in what type of thing they offer. So, it's a good idea to research it. Facilities as well, so course-specific facilities. If your child wants to do a science, you want to be thinking about how good the labs are at the university. If they want to do a humanities subject, maybe it doesn't matter as much, but it's another thing to look into. And finally, assessment methods. So if the person that you're supporting really hates exams, cries whenever they have an exam, like I did when I was younger, and it panics them and it's not something that they're very good at, then make sure you're not applying to a course that's 100% exam, because they are all assessed in different ways: presentations, essays, coursework, exams, etc. They're all taught in different ways: lectures, seminars, workshops, practicals. And you can choose which one suits you the most. And if a course is 100% exam and you hate exams, you don't have to apply to it. So do make sure that you're supporting them when they're doing that research to make sure they're finding out the right things. Okay, so they're kind of the basics on choosing the right course. Of course, as well, choosing the right university is important, making sure, do they want to move away from home? Do they want to be close to home? Does the university have the right kind of facilities? Location is really important. Again, depending on how far away from home they are, they might want to go further away, but they might want to be somewhere that has a real sense of community. So it's a really nice idea to visit the universities too, if you do get the opportunity to go on an open day or a visit day. A lot of them are in person once more now, now that restrictions have lifted. So going in person can be one of the best ways to really get a feel for the university, and just to see what it's like there. So on to UCAS. I'll go through the basics of UCAS. So UCAS stands for University and Colleges Admissions Services, and it's how everybody applies to university. It's always through UCAS. There's no other way to apply. It's all done online, and this is how applications are made. It's through the UCAS Hub, and it's just one website where you create an account, and it's all in one place. So some key facts about UCAS and about applying to university. It's entirely online. Students have a maximum of 5 choices, so they can only choose 5 courses they wish to apply to. These might be from 5 different universities, but they only get the 5 choices. There are some restrictions. So if your child or the person you're supporting wishes to study medicine, veterinary science, dentistry, they only get a maximum of 4 choices, slightly more competitive. So they only get 4 choices, not 5. And if they would like to go to Oxford or Cambridge, they can only apply to one. They cannot apply to both Oxford and Cambridge. When applying through UCAS, the cost of applying to one course is £20, and the cost of applying to 2, 3, 4, or 5 courses is £26. And there is a kind of invisibility in the service. So when they send their application to the universities, each university will receive that application and read it, but they won't be able to see what other universities you've applied to. So it's a good idea in your personal statement to not mention universities by name, because the same personal statement will go, the same application will go to all of your choices, and they don't know who you've applied to. So make sure that you're not naming it any names. So some key deadlines to bear in mind, and some of them are in fact looming. So early September, applications through UCAS open. So applications have already opened. Some keen beans might have already sent their application in. In mid-October, very, very soon, I would check this because I do know it is very imminent, the deadline for Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, dentistry and veterinary science closes. So October, it has a much earlier deadline. So if you're the person that you're supporting is applying for any of those, do make sure that they've got everything in order, because it is a mid-October deadline. Then the deadline for most courses, so almost all the other courses, the deadline is in January, and this year it's the 26th of January, so it does come around quickly. Something to really bear in mind is that some schools and colleges have their own internal deadlines, and this is usually before January, and this is so it gives the chance for the school or the college to write your young person a reference. Because they have to have a reference to go with their UCAS as well. So not only do they fill out the application and the personal statement, but the school or college also has to write a reference. And we need to give the teachers time to do that. You know, they've got a lot to get through. A lot of references to be written. It's a busy time of year for them. So sometimes the internal deadline at the school or college is earlier than January. So do make sure you are aware if there are any internal deadlines. So once that's done, once the application is sent, the next stage of the process is the offers. So universities will process the applications, read them through, give them equal consideration if they are sent by the deadline. And applicants may be invited to interview. If they're doing a course such as theatre, they might be invited to an audition, or sometimes they might not be. Not all universities interview. It does depend. So do check the website so that you can be prepared. And by early May, the majority of offers will have been made. In May due time, there's the deadline to reply to offers, to choose your firm and your insurance university choices. So a firm choice is your first choice, the university you really want to get into and the one that you are aspiring to get into. And then the insurance choice is what it says on the tin. It's insurance. It is a backup. It's a backup plan. So usually the insurance choice will be slightly lower grades, and it's just in case you don't get the grades that you were hoping for, you have a backup plan. In mid-August, it's results day, and hopefully, you know, they would have got into their first choice and it's great and off they go. Or maybe they've slightly missed their grades and they're going to their backup plan, they're going to their insurance. Or for some students, unfortunately, they miss all of their offers and they may decide to come to university through clearing, where they can get in contact with universities and see if they have any places that are spare and see if they will accept the grades that the student has received. So that is another way that some students do come to university as well. If they do miss their offers, there is still a chance through clearing. So these are the sections of the application and the kind of order in which it will be done. So the student must write their personal details on the UCAS Hub application, additional information, things like student finance, their choices, you know, they'll have a code that they put in for each course that they wish to do at each university, and that they can find that on UCAS. Their education history, their employment history, a big one, their personal statement. So this is almost like a cover letter, and it's their chance to sell themselves to the university. It's a short piece of writing, selling their skills, their attributes, their passion for the course. It's their only part that they get control over in order to sell themselves to the uni. And then finally, referee details. So who's going to be giving them a reference? This is usually the school or college that they attend. Next, when they press send, it doesn't actually go to the universities, it goes to the tutor who is giving them a reference. So they will press send and then the tutor will write them a reference. And then the tutor will press send and it will go to UCAS. Still, it hasn't gone to the universities yet, it goes to UCAS. UCAS will process the application and it will put it through a plagiarism service. So it compares the personal statement to every other personal statement that's ever been submitted, and also things that are written online, and it will make sure that the student hasn't done any copying. And if it does flag up that there has been a large percentage of plagiarism, it could risk that the application gets deleted and your child would not be allowed to apply to university because they have plagiarized. So do encourage them not to plagiarize. I'm sure they wouldn't, but do bear in mind that there is a tool that UCAS use to check. Once that is done and it's been processed, then UCAS will press send, and finally the universities will receive it. They will consider all of the applications equally if it is submitted by the deadline, and then they will reply with hopefully an offer. Some other things the universities might require are things like admissions test, if your child is doing something like law, an interview, portfolio, particularly for creative subjects. So this is a kind of bank of all of their work. It might be physical, it might be digital. They also often offer visit days as well. So if you've got an offer, you can go and visit the university, make sure it's the right place for you, and decide whether or not you'd like to put it as your firm or insurance. So this is a really good opportunity as well. I've mentioned the word offers a few times. These are the different offers that you can get from a university. So when the university responds to the application, they will give one of three responses. They will either give an unconditional offer, which means you can go and study the course no matter what, you're in. You can, it's unconditional. There's no conditions to the offer, you're in. And that's obviously, amazing. If anyone does get an unconditional offer, they are quite rare unless you already have the qualifications. You usually have to do something pretty standout to be able to get an unconditional, so they are quite rare. The next is much more common, and that's a conditional offer. And that means the university has said, yes, you can come and study with us if you get these grades. And then the final response that they can give is a rejection, where unfortunately they have rejected the application and said that they will not be giving a place on this course for the student. Another really important thing to look out for when applying through UCAS is something called contextual offers. So this is where some universities will lower the entry requirements for students who meet certain criteria. So for example, at Reading, some of our courses might be ABB, but we might lower it to BBB if a student meets certain criteria. The best way to find out if a university offers this is to look on their website. So you can just Google, for example, University of Reading contextual offers, or University of Leeds contextual offers, King's College contextual offers, whatever it is. These criteria might be things like the student has done an EPQ, they might live in a part of the country that has very low uptake to higher education. They might lower the grade requirement if the student puts the university as their firm choice, their first choice. It might be if they attend a specific school, if they've spent time in care, if they've attended a university outreach program, or other widening participation flags, such as they receive free school meals. So do check this on the websites, because you don't want to miss out on a university potentially giving you a lower offer if you meet those criteria. Finally, to talk about the UCAS section that we're going to be talking about this evening is the personal statement. So the deadlines, they are looming. So if your child is applying to university, I'm sure that this is something that they are thinking about. Maybe they finished it, maybe they're starting it, but it is a very important part of the application. It's the only section that they have full control over. It's their chance to market themselves as an individual. It's the same for all the universities, so they only get to write one, and it goes to all of the universities for the 5 courses they apply to. So it needs to be relevant, and they need to be applying to courses that are either the same or very similar, because obviously they only get the one personal statement. It's a maximum of 4,000 characters, including spaces. So it's actually it's quite a short piece of writing, and it's really, sometimes it's really difficult to not waffle, but a really important part of a personal statement is that there needs to be really clear and concise and to the point, no waffling. There isn't a spelling or grammar check, so do make sure that they write it in Word and that the spelling and grammar is perfect. Proofread it, have a couple of pairs of eyes on it, make sure that it's written, and it all makes sense. And there's no formatting allowed on UCAS, so it's quite a good idea when you're writing a draft to put it in paragraphs for clarity, but when you put it in, submit it through UCAS, do remember to take those paragraphs out, because they will count as characters, the spaces in the paragraphs, and we don't want to waste the characters. On UCAS, there is a personal statement tool. Oh, I think that slide was meant to be earlier on, so we'll just skip past it. On UCAS, there is a personal statement tool, which is a really good way to get started, if you're not sure where to start or you're not sure what to include, UCAS really does spell it out for you. So I would really recommend going onto UCAS and using their personal statement tool if you're struggling to get started. So that's a summary of UCAS and choosing universities, a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I'm now going to tackle another subject area which is really important for thinking about going to university, and that is the student finance package. So there are two costs associated with going to university, and that is the cost of the course, the tuition fees, and the second cost associated with going to university are living costs. So things like rent, bills, food, going out, buying clothes, whatever it is they need to live. And there's ways in which these costs can be covered. And the main message is that anyone who wants to go to university, if they're eligible for student finance, they should be able to go, no matter what situation they are in. There's different ways to be able to fund their costs that are associated with uni. So the tuition fee, you can take a loan from the government, from Student Finance England. You can take a tuition fee loan to cover the cost of the tuition. And I'll go into more detail about that soon. And your living costs, again, you can take a maintenance loan from the government, from Student Finance England, to help cover your living costs, rent, bills, etc. Some students are also eligible for extra funding for free money, things like grants and scholarships. Some students choose to work part-time whilst they're at university in order to help fund their studies. This can be really good because not only is it a good way to make some money, but also they might want to do something that's quite relevant to their course or the field that they wish to pursue. And it can really help them stand out when they graduate, that not only have they got a degree, but they also worked alongside that degree, and it helped them gain certain skills and experience that will help them in the workplace once they graduate. Other extra funding I mentioned, like scholarships and bursaries. And for some students as well, they're fortunate enough to have families that are able to support them. So the bank of mum and dad might be coughing up some money, or other friends or family members might also be able to financially support them. But of course, that's not the case for everyone. So there are many different avenues in which these kind of costs can be covered. So let's start with tuition fees. So the tuition fees for full-time undergraduate students are currently capped at £9,250 per year. So that is what most universities charge per year for the tuition. Eligible students will not have to pay any university tuition fees up front. So they don't need to walk into university on the first day and, reach into their back pocket and produce £9,000. It doesn't work like that at all. It is covered by the tuition fee loan. The tuition fee loan does not depend on household income. So even if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, you can still get the loan if you wish to. If you're a millionaire, you probably won't bother. You probably just pay it yourself. But it doesn't depend on household income. Everyone can get it if they're eligible. Student Finance England, so the government body, pays your tuition fee directly to the university. So students don't need to worry about, making a bank transfer or anything like this. They just sign up for the loan and the government pays it straight to the university, each year that they are there. So they don't need to worry about, sorting that out themselves. The loan is repayable, but only when the student's income is over £27,295 per year. That's what the government has currently set the threshold at. And I'll talk a little bit more detail about repayments later, because I know it is a really important topic. So that's how a student can cover their tuition fees. What about their living costs? So all eligible students are entitled to receive a maintenance loan, and the amount of money that they receive depends on different factors, such as where they live, where they study, what their household income is, etc. So the maximum maintenance loan at the moment is £9,488 per year. And that is, it does tend to increase slightly every year, with the cost of living. And the first £4,422,000 of that is non-income assessed. So once again, even if you're a millionaire, you can get that £4,422,000 every year to help. The remainder is based on household income. The maintenance loan is paid directly to the student into their bank account each term. And this is why budgeting is really important as well, because they're paid the loan every term. And normally, when you get a job, you're paid once a month. Well, a term is actually longer than a month. So it is really important that they know how to budget their money to last for the whole term. So this is an example of the maximum amount of maintenance support that a student can get. So as I said, the £4,422 is non-income assessed, but then after, the extra amount of money on top of that is based on how much household income the student is receiving. And it's on a sliding scale. So basically, the less household income you have, the more funding the student gets. And this is on screen, you can see the maximum amounts. So if the household income is under £25,000 per year and the student is living at home, they get nearly £8,000 a year to help with their living costs. If they're living away from home, they get about £9,500 a year. If they're living away from home and in London, they get just over £12,000 a year. And that's because the government recognised that London is the most expensive place in the UK to live. Unfortunately, I would know that as I live here and it is expensive, but at least the government recognise it and they give young people more money. And you get almost £11,000 per year if the student is studying overseas as part of their UK-based course. So, for example, if they have an integrated study abroad year, they can get more funding in order to help cover the things like relocation and flights. If you're not sure how much money they can expect to receive through the maintenance loan, really good website to go on is the student finance website gov.uk/student finance calculator. If you go on the calculator, you can put in your household income and it'll tell you how much the student can expect to get. And as I say, it is on a sliding scale. Household income is whoever the student lives with. This doesn't count things like siblings or the student's income themselves. It is, the adults of the household. So this might be mum and dad, mum and stepdad, just dad, whoever it is who is financially supporting them. If your child spends, let's say, half their time with you and half their time with the other parent because you're no longer together, then you need to be honest and say which household they spend the most amount of time in. And that is the household you will choose to assess how much maintenance support they will get. I've said a couple of times, if you're eligible, you can find out if you're eligible on the government website as well. Most UK students are eligible. If you're from the EU, Brexit has changed the rules, so you might want to look into whether or not the same things apply to you. But if you're a UK student, then you will be eligible. But if you're not a UK student, you might need certain things like settled status or refugee status. So do check on the government website, Student Finance England, if you're not sure whether or not you're eligible. A student can be assessed as an independent if they meet certain criteria, but it has to be quite specific criteria. So as I say, it's based on household income, but if a student is over the age of 25, married, divorced, civil partnership, if they have care of a child, no living parents, estranged from their parents, they're a care leaver, they have no means of contacting their parents, or they've supported themselves financially for at least 3 years, then they can apply as an independent, and it will be based on their income rather than the household income. Student Finance will ask for evidence of this, so they might ask for things like bank statements, marriage certificate, so do bear that in mind. If they are thinking about applying as an independent, they do have to prove that they are an independent. So just quickly about the payment process. As I said, tuition fees are paid directly to the university. The student doesn't have to worry about that. The maintenance loan is paid directly to the students into their bank accounts at the start of each term. And so it's their responsibility to budget that money for the term. Okay, so you might have seen those figures on screen and thought to yourselves, well, I don't think that's going to fund them for the entire year. I think it's going to cost a bit more money than that. That is where extra funding comes into play. So there are other opportunities to gain extra money. So students who have a child or adult who is dependent on them can be eligible for extra support. If they have a disability, long-term health condition, mental health condition, or specific learning difficulty, they will be eligible for extra support. If they're studying overseas as part of their course, or if they're leaving local authority care, do check on the government website if any of these apply to them, because they might be eligible to get extra money. Another way to get extra money is through things like scholarships, bursaries, and grants. Now, these are free money, and it's not often that you hear those words, free money, but they genuinely are. They're free money. The student can receive them, and they never have to pay them back. So if you see any of these and you think that your child is eligible for them, do make sure that they apply for them, that they ring up, that they inquire, because every year so much of this money is left unspent. At the University of Reading, we had a bursary for our business students, and we had 20 bursaries of, I can't remember how much money it was, but let's say it was £3,000 each. We had 20 bursaries, and only 15 students applied. So we gave it to the 15 students who applied, and then we had 5 other bursaries, and we didn't have anyone to give it to because nobody applied. So I think they just gave the money to the department. But, there were other students who could have had that money, but because they didn't know it existed or they didn't know how to apply, they missed out on it. So do check on the university websites. You can type in the name of the university into Google and then bursaries afterwards. So University of Reading bursaries, and it will take you to their page where, it says what kind of things they have on offer. And if any of those apply to your child, make sure, you grab them, because you don't want to pass up on any free money. They might be, the criteria might be based on a variety of things, such as academic achievement. They might be subject specific, might be based on household income, might be linked to certain professions. And the way in which the money is given might differ as well. So universities might award money off their accommodation, cheaper rent, a reduction in their tuition fees, cash awards, so just money in their bank account for them to spend on whatever they want to. It might be rent, it might be a laptop, whatever they want. Or it might be a combination of these things. It might be a one-off payment, it might be something they get every year, so do make sure you check. Just a couple of examples of what we offer at Reading. We're just one university and this is what we offer. Other universities will offer different things. Some might offer very similar things. This is just a couple of things that we offer. It's not all of them. We offer a lot more than this. So if your child's applying to Reading, do make sure you look at our website, because we do offer a lot of extra funding. So we've got a bursary for students whose household income is less than £27,000 per year. And that's they can take that as a cash award. They can just have money in their bank account. We also offer another bursary for students whose household income is between £27,000 and £28,000 per year. So again, if this applies to the student, don't pass it up. It is free money. And these are just some of the other things we offer too. It's not an exclusive list, but for students who have care experience, so they've lived in care at some point in their lives, or they're doing a work or study placement or other subject-specific things. There are many different things that we offer. So these might be cash bursaries, money off tuition fees. Sometimes, it's even just book tokens, but it's free money. So don't pass it up if it's something that you come across. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you apply for student finance. So it's all done on the government website, gov.uk/student finance. And it's a fairly painless process. It's you just have to kind of put in all your details. It's a bit of a box filling exercise, but it doesn't take too long. Applications normally open in February, and it is really important to apply as soon as possible. and the deadline is usually the end of May. So do keep an eye on their website to find out exactly when they open, but it is typically in February. Students will need to make an account, and there's a few things they need to have ready in order to apply. So their passport, national insurance number, bank account details, and university and course details of where they are applying. They just need their preferred choice of university. So you might be thinking, well, in February, they won't know which university they're going to. That's not a problem. Just put down which university they think they're going to go to. If this changes, we can very easily change that on an application. It would just take a few minutes. But if they start a whole new application again, this can take weeks to process, and they don't want to be in a situation where their student finance gets delayed because they missed the deadline. It can be really stressful. I've even known of some students who have actually dropped out of university because of this, because they missed the deadline, they turned up at uni, they had no way to pay for their accommodation, and they just dropped out because it was too much to deal with. Please don't let that be your student. As I say, it's really easy to change an application, so just make the application, and if you need to change a detail later on, it's not a problem. It's easy to apply online, and it just takes around 30 minutes. So once the student has pressed send, they will have put your details, a parent's details, and your email address, and then you will get an email for the part of the application you need to fill in if they are basing it on your household income. So you'll be emailed a link within 24 hours to create an online account for you to provide information about your income for the previous tax year. And you just log in on your account, and you have to, again, it's just a bit of a box filling exercise. If your income this tax year will be at least 15% less than the previous tax year, you can give income details for this tax year instead of last tax year, if there is a 15% or more difference. Obviously, we recognise with the pandemic, a lot of people's work situations have changed. So if that applies to you, it doesn't, you can do it for this tax year instead of last tax year. You're going to need details of your household taxable income and your personal taxable income. So things like, your pay slips, like how much you're paid. Also, personal taxable income might be things like if you own properties that you rent out, dividends, things like this. So just anything that you earn that is taxable. HMRC will check the information, and it may ask for evidence of your income, of your marital statement status, if they need some clarification on what you've submitted. But most applications just sail through fine. You just need to make sure you fill in the boxes correctly, and that you put down all of your taxable income correctly. I already said this, but I'm going to say it again because it's really important. Do make sure that you apply early. Each year, thousands of students apply late for their student finance, and they have no way to pay for their course or accommodation, and some of them even have to drop out. So don't let that be your child. It usually takes 6 weeks to process an application. Sorry, at least 6 weeks. So make sure you apply early so that everything is ready for when they start. You can apply on the Gov website. You don't need a confirmed place at university or college to apply. Apply with your first choice, and you can change the details later on if you need to. It's so much easier to change an application than to start a new one. So do make sure that you apply as soon as possible. As soon as it opens, apply. Okay, so finally, penultimately, because I'm going to talk a little bit about budgeting as well, but maybe this is one of the most important parts, is understanding student loan repayments. So here are the key facts. Repayments start from the April after the student graduates or leaves university. So there is a bit of time where they don't have to think about it. They only start repaying when their income is £27,295 a year or more. And they repay 9% of their income over that amount. Now, that's not 9% of their entire income. It's just 9% of what they earn over the threshold. Deductions are made through your pay through the HMRC tax system. So it's kind of annoying that they call it a debt, because it's really just like tax. It is just like paying a little bit of extra tax I wish that they would just call it student tax, because that's exactly how it works. With your tax and your national insurance, the student will also just pay a small amount back to student finance as well. If their income falls below the threshold, their repayments will stop. So it's all on a sliding scale. The more you earn, the more you repay. The less you earn, the less you repay. It's all linked to how much you earn, not how much you owe. So if ever they lost their job, or they took a pay cut, something happened, it's not like a horrible debt that's hanging over them. The repayments stop. It doesn't really work like other loans do. There's not a time limit that they have to pay it back by. That you won't get bailiffs knocking at the door if they don't pay it. It's just linked to how much they earn, and it's done through the tax system. It doesn't affect your ability to get a mortgage. It doesn't affect your credit score or anything like this. It really is just like paying a little bit of extra tax. And this is the good news. Any outstanding loan balance will be written off 30 years after entering repayments. So, for example, for me, I started paying back my student loan when I was 22. So when I'm 52, it'll be wiped. So yeah, something to look forward to, I guess, for when I'm 52. This gives an example of how much you would pay back depending on how much you're earning. So as you can see here, if the student is earning £27,295 per year, they repay nothing, zero. And then depending on how much they earn over the threshold is how much they will pay back. So for example, if they earn 28 grand a year, they will pay back 9% of £705, because that's how much they're over the threshold by. And that works out as a monthly repayment of £5 per month. Obviously, that's a very small amount, and it just goes out with your tax. The more you earn, the more you pay back. But if you're in a very fortunate position to be earning a lot of money, even £100 a month that goes out with your tax, your national insurance, it doesn't feel like a huge amount of money because you're fortunate enough to be earning a lot more and have a lot of take-home pay. And it is just all on a sliding scale. So if you take a pay cut, it goes down, pay rise, it goes up, but it's linked to how much you earn and not how much you owe. And it is, as I say, just like paying a little extra bit of tax. You don't have to do a bank transfer or anything like that. It's just taken out with your tax. To be honest, I don't even notice it. I don't look at it. I don't care. They take a small amount from me every month. And, my degree was a real investment in my education and my future for me, because if I hadn't have got my degree, I wouldn't have the job that I do now. I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've had in my life if I hadn't have done my degree. So even though I pay a small amount back to student finance every month, it's completely worth it for me, because if I hadn't have gone to university, I don't think I would be in this job and I wouldn't be earning the money that I earn. So you can see it as an investment. So just a quick word on budgeting. As I mentioned, students have to budget their loans per term, not per month. So it is really important that they understand the importance of budgeting their money, making sure they have enough to last them the entire amount of time. So how much does their rent cost, their bills? Do they have enough to cover that? Do they need to, have a part-time job to help fund other things they might want to do? There's loads of really good ways that they can budget, and it's a really good time to be having these kind of conversations about, being responsible, learning to cook. If they don't cook yet, put them to work and make them make dinner this evening, get them to do the washing up. They've got to do it one day, so let's start now. There's different ways, as I mentioned, for them to fund themselves, like loans, bursaries, part-time work, but also make sure that they understand that there's loads of ways to save money. Things like NUS discount by having a student card, keeping track of spending. So they might wish to have like an app like Monzo, which keeps a track of your spending. Cooking in bulk and like cooking with friends rather than ordering takeaways all the time, which maybe I was guilty of at uni, learned the hard way. And a lot of universities do have part-time work opportunities actually at the university, and these can be really flexible. Things like working in the university shop, being a student ambassador. A lot of universities have career websites and career centres where students can find part-time work alongside their studies. So there are lots of ways that they can save money as well. something that we've done at Reading is we've partnered with a company called Black Bullion, and it's a short online course that students and parents can take that teaches students how to get ready to be financially independent. It might be the first time they've ever had to manage their own money, so it's really important that they feel confident to be able to do it, because they don't want to get themselves into any kind of money worries or debt or anything like that. So it's a short online course, and it just really equips them with the tools to be able to understand things like cost of living, repayments of their loan, and just to be able to become financially literate and financially independent. So do check out Black Bullion and Money Ready for Uni if you would like to suggest that they do that course. So the things to do: take a look at Black Bullion. Maybe they'd like to sign up for the course, make sure they understand how to be financially literate. Apply to student finance as early as possible. It usually opens in February. Keep an eye on it and make sure they apply as soon as possible. Prepare the documents ready for the application: passport, national insurance, bank account details. If you don't know whether their national insurance card is or their number, find it now. You might have to chase student finance for your application progress. So you might want to be ringing them, calling them to get an update, but do make sure you apply for it as soon as possible. Really, really important: check with the university to see if they have any bursaries or scholarships available to the student. It might be because of financial situation, it might be subject specific and achievement related. Check, because you don't want to miss out on free money. You can also have a look at our website for things like managing your money and budgeting, and the bursaries that we offer, but other universities have very similar services, so do check. And if you apply late, your money might not be available on day one, so make sure you've got a bit of backup money to so that you don't have to panic about, affording things in the first week of university. But, in order to avoid this, apply as soon as possible, and then hopefully, you'll get your money on time and it's not something you'll have to worry about in the first few weeks of university, because it'll be in your bank account ready to go. Some useful links are on screen, so you might want to take a screenshot of them, but things like the government website where you apply for student finance, where the calculator is, the student room and UCAS have some really good resources as well. Money Ready for Uni is the course that I mentioned. You can always email universities and call us up as well if you have any questions or you want to check about scholarships and bursaries. Something we have at Reading is our parents newsletter, which is a monthly newsletter, and it just gives parents key information at key times of the year about things like student finance and UCAS, other hints and tips and ways to support your children. So you can sign up to our newsletter. It's tinyurl.com/uni-reading-parents. So if you'd like to receive our newsletter, you can sign up to it there. So thanks so much for listening. I know that I've taken you through a lot of information. I will send these slides to the school, so if you'd like to look at them again, I will send over a copy, so you can refer back to them if you'd like to. But does anyone have any questions at all? Just put them into the messaging box. And yeah, I hope that's clarified some things.
Thank you very much, Louise. That was excellent. Really, really useful information there. We'll just give people a few minutes if they want to type anything in the chat, or even come off mute and ask any questions that they might have. But no, I think that was really great. So thank you.
No worries at all. I'll just give it a couple of minutes in case anyone's typing. But yeah, feel free to just unmute yourself as well if you'd like to ask anything. Cool. I don't think anyone's written any questions. Just a thank you. No, thank you for listening. So yeah, if anyone does have any questions at all, you can obviously get in contact with universities directly. You can email us, outreach@reading.ac.uk, if you don't want to get in touch with Reading directly. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. I know it was a lot of information, so I will share those slides. But
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you. I can send those out, Louise. And yeah, it just goes to show how good your presentation was. No, no question.
stunned silence. They're just
um,
digesting it all.
yeah. No, so thank you very much for your time, and thank you everyone who joined this evening. I really appreciate it. And if there are any questions, you can always ask me, and I can forward to Louise. But I will share the slides from tonight as well. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye.
Have a good evening. Bye bye.
And you. Bye.